to introduce to you the head of mobile the general manager of mobile for Perfect World. His name is Fabien-Pierre NICOLAS, and he is here to tell us about the rise, or the end of platforms and the rise of the core gamer.
Great.
Fabien.
Thanks, Scott, for the intro. And first of all, everyone, forgive my French accent. Even after 5 years in San Francisco, it's still there and strong. So ask me to repeat if anything is not coming through. So just very quickly, before we jump in all the metrics on mobile and PC for core gamers, I've been 8 years in gaming industry. I've been, compared to a lot of you guys, I've been only 3 years into free-to-play. But at DNA, for over 2 years, I've marketed a lot of the current free-to-play mobile gaming hits. I joined Perfect World recently to create the mobile business unit in the West, knowing that Perfect was already a mobile gaming publisher as well in China. So I spent those 8 years, over and over trying to convince core gamers to jump in new experiences or sometimes, existing franchise. And one thing, I did that in PC and mobile, and one thing that struck me is the fact that our industry is still thinking a lot about different cluster of gamers per platform. So a lot of my friends currently that were jumping into mobile and coming at DNA or now coming to visit me at Perfect World, and some of them are here, were like, oh my God, I need to make a mobile game. I really want to do a great core game. But at the same time, I've heard that in mobile, you need to make something that's mainstream or mid-core or accessible. You could replace a lot of those buzzwords. And I think it's coming from the fact that in the traditional console era, as a publisher, as well a developer, you had to think that, oh, well, the PlayStation gamer is one specific type of gamer who enjoy adventure. The Xbox gamer is all about adrenaline and action. The Wii gamer is more mainstream. But hopefully, I think through metrics together today, we could take another look at our industry and going from being platform-centric to being gamer-centric. And we're going to look at together metrics on mobile and on PC and see the similarities. Free-to-play is all about metrics, right? One thing that I was going through some of the presentation today, and I wanted, first of all, since we're at the beginning of the session, to let you know that there are things for different type of audience in this presentation. So hopefully at the end and after the Q&A, if you are somebody who's just having a big PC core gamer project or a big console core gamer project, what you will be able to take away from this presentation is the fact that looking at the metrics is definitely worth considering having a mobile game, either as a side project or as a companion app around the specific project that you're trying to go through. You will see that the metrics are definitely exciting. It's a great time to make core games for mobile. Now, let's say you are, again, like some of the attendees already mobile first. Hopefully, the metrics we're going to take a look at in terms of both the minimum viable and the aspirational metrics will give you a good goal to aim for in terms of monetization or in terms of average lifetime for players or time spent per day. Finally, yesterday I was speaking at the Pocket Gamer event with Christian, with one of the VC at the board of Supercell. We say, I could give checks to everybody. So hopefully we have some VCs, attending or members or angels. And they've been shying away a little bit from financing games in general and core games, especially in the free-to-play space because it's high-risk business. But hopefully looking at those metrics, they will realize there is a lot of great opportunity that remains and finance some of your project. Finally, some of you might just be here because it's more quiet than the rest of the space. And in this case, it's great. And the typing is just the only thing that may disrupt the rest of the audience. But let's jump in the different metrics we're going to review. So we'll take a look more at the paying users and the revenue side, as well as the acquisition side, and finally the places of discovery for those different products. Finally, we'll take a look at one successful example of gamer-centric cross-platform hit, and then we'll take a look at some of the opportunities before we open to a discussion. So the metrics. And before I jump into the metrics, there is one slide that a lot of people are brushing over. But I wanted to have a methodology slide. After 8 years, taking a look at metrics, I was like, it's always important to give you a context. So I'm not going to speak about anything that's not about core gamers. So if you're in to make great casual games, I'm sorry, I'm not sure you will learn a lot. The other thing is, among those gamers, those very intense gamers, I do isolate two types of demographics. One is way more adrenaline-driven, the bro gamer or the action gamer. He enjoys fast-paced FPSs. He's enjoying, a lot of driving game and so on. That's not the type of gamer I have expertise on. So I'm going to speak more about the geeky gamer who loves RPG, MMOs, fantasy universe, and co-op and competitive multiplayer. And finally, so here you could see some of the type of games he enjoys on each platform. And finally, I will be speaking about every country except for China, Korea, and Japan, who have very specific type of metrics in terms of free-to-play. So here we're going to speak way more about the West, I'm going to say, as a broad label. So now let's jump in the first metrics, enough methodology. And the first metrics, and I think the CEO of DNF this morning, I'm sure I've spoke a lot about time. Time is really a key value in free-to-play. It's a measure of how great your product is. If people are ready to sacrifice a lot of their time every day for your game, that means you did something right. So if we take a look at the average time on mobile and PC, a lot of people are still perceiving mobile as something that people play 5-10 minutes a day, and PC as something that people play hours and hours every day. Based on the data, actually, mobile is around 50 minutes a day and PC 65 minutes. So I'm speaking about the average time over a full week that people engage with the product. And why the gap isn't as big as you would expect is because on mobile games, typically people do play 7 days a week, session 5, 6, 7 minutes, 10 times a day. So they engage for the full week in bite-sized session. By comparison, on PC, what we're seeing a lot is people play 10 to 20 minutes for lunch, for example, and then they're going to play a way longer session in the evening, but usually it's more 5 days a week on average. Probably a lot of homework to do on Monday and Tuesday night or something like that, but that leads to a different type of behavior. So small advantage to PC on this side for the core gamers. Now let's take a look at the next metrics, which is really key, is the percentage of paying users. And Jack was mentioning that in his speech. Actually, if you look on mobile versus PC, to be in business, you have to be at least 1.5–2% paying users. But you could see something that's curious, right? That on mobile, on average, the great product could reach up to 5.5% paying users on a month. The last data point, which is a peak, so it's over 1 day, unlike the two other metrics for a monthly average. And again, I'm speaking about core games, so casual games, totally different ballpark. So what you're seeing, difference PC and mobile, you're seeing that both the peak and the aggressive value is actually showing a gap. And that's a payment gap. Payment friction is very strong on PC. You have a lot of payment provider. It can be very complicated depending on the country. At the contrary of mobile, Apple and Google have done a terrific job at really making the payment as seamless as possible for the users, using carrier billing as well for Google. And that really helped. So those numbers could seem very great on both ends. And I think we're still seeing a gap between the company based in Asia, who have really mastered some monetization system based on the psychology of the users, and some of the studio in the West. So hopefully that gives you some of the aspirational data I was mentioning, both if you have a mobile or a PC project. Now, the second key metrics is average revenue per DAU. And we'll see a trend that's fairly similar to what we just observed. So to be in business on mobile, if you're below 25 cents at this time, on average monthly, it's going to be really hard to get enough money to then finance user acquisition at scale, to finance new content at scale. But ideally, you should aspire to be in the 75 cents to $1 ballpark for your core gamer product. And this is doable. And again, you could see very high peaks for some of the product, both on mobile and on PC, when there is like special sales and events going on. It is possible to create this motivation for our gamers. So, why is it important after all? Because people will spend a set number of days in your product. And therefore, the capability to monetize them on a regular basis is actually key to make sure you have a viable business. Now, let's look at something else, which is for those paying users, the couple of percent that Jack was mentioning was supporting the product. How much do they monetize over a lifetime? Again, here, and unlike the percentage paying users, you're seeing an edge for PC. To be competitive in this market, you need to be north of $100 revenue for your paying users. And it's really critical that you're in this ballpark because, again, there is a lot of cost of supporting your game and user acquisition and PC. We'll see in a minute that media buying is actually critical in free-to-play regardless of the platform. At the contrary, you're seeing that there is an edge for PC because simply user retain longer. We, generally speaking, after 9-12 months, even for a core game on mobile, you start seeing your community craving for new experiences, even if you have done a great job of adding several events per month and really animating your community, they will move on. And so you start to see a clear nosedive in terms of number of DAU, in terms of the LTV of the new users coming in. By comparison, we have one MMO that was shipped in 2008 in the West, Perfect World International, that's still thriving and with a very vibrant community. And we're already 5 years in. And World of Warcraft is the most famous example of this longevity of MMOs in general. So here, PC is doing a better job overall for those paying users. Finally, I want to cover one key topic, and some of you guys may have attended the Facebook publishing speech right before, the cost per install, the cost for the user acquisition on each platform. So here, we are seeing, I gave you a blended average for top 3 high volume, low quality sources and top 3 low volume, high quality sources. So you're seeing, if you want high quality user on mobile, you need to spend upwards of $3.60 in the US. By comparison on PC, it's upwards of $4.25. Now, if you just care about the volume, you want a lot of people in, maybe your game is very social and need this big stream of users, and you care less about the retention and monetization they're going to bring, then in this case, you will be in a ballpark that's very similar. Those numbers are blended Android and iOS, so iOS is still higher than Android overall. We could discuss more in details about that. But to take a step back, regardless, some of you may still be new in free-to-play. I know it happened, even at Casual Connect. The key is to pick a lifetime value that could be 90 days for a mobile game, 180 days for MMO, or whatever you want. Estimate the lifetime value that you're going to expect for your user from a specific country, a specific traffic source, and then only pay up to this value. So never spend $10 acquiring users, which still a lot of people don't have the tools to estimate that. And on mobile, there is a lot of great tools out there. Mobile app tracking has offers, having a great product. Addix, Kochava. So on PC side as well, there is a lot of great products. And there's still a lot of people who don't equip with those tools early on. So hopefully, if you go into buying media, please have those tools in place from the beginning. It's really important for your marketing group. And one final word there is, if you take a look, I'm seeing a lot of projects who have $1 million game and have only budgeted $250,000 for marketing. That's not going to work. On average, you need to have at least the same budget and very likely a budget 2 or 3 times higher on the user acquisition media side than you have on the game production side. So simply to build enough critical mass so that your investment is worth it and that your creative vision is reaching all the consumers that they actually aspire reaching. Now, let's take a final look at one more data point, which is where are the users coming from? So on mobile and PC, and again, across several core games, you're seeing that the part in green is paid user acquisition, which is, a third on PC side and way more on mobile. And that's true for guys like King.com, Clash of Clans, Supercell. Those guys are spending big in this marketplace on mobile side. So paid user acquisition is key not only because you have 30 to 40% of the user coming from it, but because it generates as well the red part, which is the number of friends who are coming in. There is a correlation between the two. The rest is very similar, you know, what the platform feature will get you or SEO. The one difference is PR. While on the PC side, it still drives, you know, good number, especially early on, of install. On the mobile side, PR do not drive significant volume of install. PR drives other great things, namely the attention of Apple and Google's team, editorial team, if your game is really well received. But it doesn't drive a crazy volume of install in the long run. So it may be worth investing your money and time somewhere else. So that's, you know, some of the discovery methods by type of game, and you see a lot of similarities. So now we've been through like several metrics, and hopefully you guys have seen that there is, you know, at least some metrics such as percentage paying users or the RPDAU where there is a slight edge for mobile. Some other metrics like time spent or the lifetime value of paying users where PC have some edge. But overall, it evens out, which is, that was a big surprise for me. You know, that was a big discovery. And, you know, hopefully shows that once you're jumping into project, you could think of all those different platforms the core gamer is engaged into. Now let's look at one very successful recent example, which is definitely engaging gamers across platform, and that's Injustice: God Among Us. So the same studio, NetherRealms, had a team working on the mobile product and the console product. And those guys not only launched the most successful new IP in the console world since Red Dead Redemption, they stayed 2 months #1 on the NPD charts, but on iOS, they have a game which is in the top 30 grossing since the launch. So again, this iOS game shipped 2 weeks before, did the job of promoting the console game, but as well was a great business in itself. So I think we're going to see more of those companion app model. Ubisoft had some reveal recently at E3, hopefully executed in the same level of quality that the NetherRealms team achieved. And finally, I wanted to discuss a little bit some of the other opportunities. So the graphic refers to the Clash of Clans meets Puzzle and Dragon pitch. I've seen way more of those. Please don't come with those type of concepts. But mobile gaming, I think we could approach it with a matrix that says, you know, 4 key territories: West, Japan, Korea, and China. And then you have game genre. A good example of opportunity is 3D MMO in the West and in Japan. There is no hits yet. So it's still an open opportunity. On the other end, in China and in Korea, you will struggle more. There is already established players. You could think of, you know, strategy genre where there will be sub-segment like futuristic strategy that will come into play. There is way more example like Endless Runner with PvP and co-op mechanism haven't been done right yet and monetized well. The last remaining opportunity I want to speak of is obviously the console, right? Even if they are not at the same level of reach, for the first 2 years, Xbox One and PS4 will definitely have a scarcity of content. So I'm not saying go head-to-head with Call of Duty and make a first-person shooter, but you have opportunities to go and propose different type of experience who are not available yet because making a paid product costs way too much money to recoup in the first 2 years of those consoles. You know, so hopefully we'll see way more announcements, and those gamers have proven with games like the FIFA game, sports game, NBA 2K, as well as other products that they're ready to pay a lot of money. Just look at EA quarterly results that was announced like a week ago. You know, there is definitely an audience that could monetize. So thanks a lot for the time and attention, and I wanted to jump to the question and answer with you guys and see if you have any question on those metrics.
Are you seeing any differences between session length on core gamers on PC or console versus on like tablet?
So I don't have enough of a sample on tablet to comment. That, you know, that's not the forte of some of the companies I've been part of. But on the small, so it will be just informal knowledge. But yes, there was, you know, it was closer from 15 minutes versus 5 minutes, as mentioned.
Shorter range on tablet.
So less session, longer session. So instead of having 10 sessions a day, you're going to have 2 or 3, but you're going to have lengths of 15 minutes. Again, informal knowledge. So unlike the rest of this, I feel more on checking ground, like taking a big stance on.
So when you look at MMO, it has immersion, has long play session expectations. Do you find tablet kind of a struggling device for that genre?
I hope not. I think tablets is definitely the most interesting device because it's bridging the gap more than phone will, right? So I do think that if you're going to talk to core gamers, you have to consider that a lot of them those days have like 1 or 2 tablets at home. They're early adopters as well of a lot of technology. The downside is that there is a lot of countries where equipment rate is still very low, especially in the West.
Hi, thanks for sharing the metrics. I thought it was very helpful. Do you have any insight into what competitive metrics for retention would be, namely day 1, day 7, and day 30 for the PC market?
For the PC market, no, I don't. But if Jack is still around, I bet it does have a lot more data points there. So I haven't looked specifically about the retention, since I've seen a lot of variation by type of by genre, for example. So if you take a slot game, traditionally you have very high retention by comparison to a trading card game. So short of knowing the type of projects on PC and taking a deeper look, it will be hard to give you just blanket numbers.
Hi, could you explain once again the difference between 2 metrics that you shared? One is the CPI, how you're accounting for that versus new user acquisition cost.
So here, those costs were, so there is many ways to count new users, right? This was cost per install. So there is more and more people buying per engagement or per new unique users, but this was just a cost per install. So what you saw in the slide right there was just a cost per install blended. But again, like things to think about when you do user acquisition. On PC, there is even networks selling you cost per paying users. So you only pay if somebody monetizes. It's still like not mainstream, but there is some networks doing that. On mobile, think about cost per engagement, which means you only pay if somebody finished the tutorial. So you reduce a lot the incentive for an ad network to give you a lot of crappy users because they have to optimize against the fact that people complete a tutorial to get paid.
A follow-on, if I may. 2 other metrics that you shared, ARP DAU versus ARP per paying user.
Yeah.
The comparison between PC and mobile that you showed us, it seems that the mid-range players, the mobile is actually greater than the PC number. And do you have any explanation why there's a anomaly at that point?
So yeah, you mean the average for successful product, right? The one that in the middle. Well, the explanation I think was tied back up to the payment. Again, like for those very successful product monetizing, they don't encounter the problem that you have payment provider all over the place, and we're still seeing a lot of countries where there is bugs. The security of the credit card company could go in the way of your payment. So even if you have a user who is really excited, if you end up having your credit card company asking you to check for 5 minutes whether you're the real person, it may actually detract from the impulse buying that's critical in free-to-play. Cool. Thanks, guys.